I just finished season 1 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and I feel pretty confident saying it's really, really good, maybe great, maybe the best season of Spider-Man television show ever made. Mortimer is here to talk about it because he loved it, because he loves all the animals. He loves the Scorpion. He misses Black Cat. He wishes Black Cat showed up in it, but she didn't. Instead, we got Finesse. Maybe that's going to be Black Cat of this. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Finesse is its own thing. Anyway, we're going to talk spoilers for episodes 9 and 10, Hero or Menace, and If This Be My Destiny. This is not like a breaking down all the little details, although I'll talk about some of them. This is more just general vibes, kind of stuff I liked, stuff I didn't like. It'll mostly be stuff I liked, because I think these last episodes were very interesting. And I think it put the season in an overall very interesting little box. Like, it did a lot of things we expected, and then a lot of things that we didn't expect. And we'll talk about setups for the future, what I think we'll do, what parts seem more interesting, and what parts seem like things that I'm like, we can check on that if we want. But alright, episode 9. Hero or Menace. So this is the big Scorpion confrontation, what I figured would be the end of the series. Like, this fight with Scorpion would be it. And honestly, by the end of episode 9, I was like, oh wow, we got a whole episode left. Right, this is 10 episode season. I guess it's just gonna be like falling action and everybody being like, hey, so crazy that you fought Scorpion. Alright, well, see you next year or whatever. But there was a lot to like here. First of all, the Harry, Spider-Man, Nico dynamic, cool. I like this. I like that we didn't really move in any one direction on the romance. Even Nico is kind of getting closer to Pearl. I don't know, we may be getting a spider throuple in the future. But like this episode, I think this is probably the best episode of the series because it had 2 of the best scenes. One is the fight scene at the end, which we'll get to. But 2 is this Osborn gloating with Dr. Octopus scene, which I thought was so fun. Because first of all, sassy Norman Osborn is a very fun Norman Osborn. Those little details, like his facial animations, using the tissue to pick up the phone, and just showing up to gloat. That's very good villainy. Used lines like, I love that for you, which I guess we were using around 2016, I don't know. We learned that General Ross, who has not taken enough L's this week, also gave Norman Osborn all of the recovered Octavius tech, which Norman Osborn's going to use to turn himself into Green Goblin and stuff eventually, so that's fun. Way to go, General Ross. But then, I really, really enjoyed this series' version of Dr. Octopus. I don't think, obviously, we haven't seen the last of him. I don't think this was like a full Octopus arc, but I do think just that bit at the end there, that what is the difference between us is substance. I am worth 1,000 of you, I thought was so interesting. Because we've seen Norman Osborn here be a businessman, but we have not seen him be an engineering genius. He's very good at organizing people and using like different things like marketing and also like motivating people. And obviously he's very ruthless. He has a lot of those skills, but like Octavius is a scientist and is able to develop all these insane superpowers that are seemingly just things that he's like thinking about for one day and was like, you know what, unicorn helmet, all right, that'll be fun. And it does feel like now I get their relationship. Before, it just felt like they were, you know, 2 guys who were friends and then, you know, kind of hate each other because one got more attention or something like that or whatever. But now it is very much this like, I can make all this stuff and then I'm going to be the person that can sell all this stuff, but I can't make it and I hate you for that. And I love that about both of them. Then we get the Spider-Man v Scorpion fight. So this was really, really good. I think this whole confrontation with the gangs fighting and then at the same time Nico getting involved and maybe using magic, or at least expecting to use magic, which we follow up on later. But this idea that almost all of our main characters are in the same place at the same time. Perfect way to end this. Lonnie had to do Tombstone Origins, like that moment where he just gets locked in the thing and gets the chemicals, which is similar to how he gets his powers in the comics. It seems like his skin is going to turn gray eventually, like he's gonna basically be made of stone or something, but for this point he just is invulnerable and has super strength. Again, the Lonnie stuff, it feels kind of small when it's just gang members fighting other gang members, but then the Scorpion shows up. So first of all, he's got new and improved Scorpion armor with Scorpion helmet. Still does not have his Scorpion arms or his legs actually protected, but hey, at least the helmet is something. First of all, one thing I love about this performance, I love when a villain has a unique nickname for Spider-Man. Like, they don't call him Spider-Man. This calls him Araña, which obviously is Spanish for spider. And this is not, you know, usually what Scorpion calls Spider-Man, because Matt Gargan Scorpion usually is not a Spanish-speaking character. Or, like, that's not a trait that's usually attached to him. But I think that's super fun, the same way that other characters call Spider-Man webhead. Everybody has a different way they address him. Some talking down to him, and some here kind of are saying, like, you're playing this game too. You and me are on the same level. As I feel like that's what that acknowledgement is with him calling him Aranya. I think the Scorpion fighting here was so much fun. Just a Spider-Man fight that's outside, where Spider-Man can swing around and his villain can flip around and do all kinds of stuff, is always great. And the show did so much fun stuff with both Spider-Man, using the environment, but Scorpion also using his tail, not just to like whip it at guys and try to kill them, but also to throw himself up in the air to do a punch or a kick or something like that. I love there is one shot when Spider-Man and Lonnie are fighting together, which we'll get to, and Scorpion is thrown back and he kind of uses the tail to steady himself and then jumps back up in the air. Small things like that made this fight so cool and made me so angry we did not see this fight in live action. I mean, I think it looks great in animation, but the fact that we never got any Scorpion Spider-Man stuff is just a shame, because this could have been a really cool dynamic. This just would have been really fun. Then we have Lonnie, now the good guy, and I think this relationship paid off very well. And as this thing is going on, you're still like, well, we still have not fully seen Lonnie's villain turn. And I remember thinking earlier today before I watched this, like, what if the show just doesn't do the villain thing for him? Like, what if he doesn't get the super serum or whatever it's gonna be, and he leaves the gang and just goes on living his life and is good now? Because they could totally do that. He could be Tombstone, and then now he's not Tombstone anymore, and it's not like as much associated with superpowers. It's just a gang nickname that he had. I think that would have been really cool. I think we have an interesting equilibrium for Lonnie now, where he is both a leader of this gang, but, is not going to kill people. He seems to want to protect the people in this gang, especially after his boss abandon them all. And he is a leader, and he sees an opportunity there. But at the same time, he's not cruel. He knows Spider-Man shouldn't kill villains. So I think that relationship that they're going to have in the future, that dynamic is going to be really interesting. Loved seeing them both fighting together. Love the shots of them running together where we did that kind of speed lines. I don't even know what that's called, but like the background blurred out. Something that I was kind of hoping for when we saw early versions of this show, like very, very early previews. Everything in the fighting, when it was really focused, was very fluid. I think it was very cool. I think it was smart that we used the Scorpion here, character with one big robot arm. It's very easy to follow. Like, I think if we'd started with Dr. Octopus, maybe it would have been a little trickier, and still that would have been cool. But I like where this is like Lonnie and Spider-Man, characters that are not incredibly coordinated, not great fighters, are able to kind of grab the thing and then pull him forward. It was all just really, really fun. I will say the other Scorpion, the woman, she is just psychotic, and I love that, and I hope she comes in as Scorpion 2 or something in the future. The way she flicked out those knives, which again, guys, bring knives to these fights. I'm not telling you gang members how to do your job, but like, my God, it gives you such an advantage, and all of you just come in full punches, and don't do that. It's not as good. And then we have this like, should he kill, should he not kill thing. We're kind of doing what happened at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, one of those moments where Spider-Man chooses not to kill the villain. But I love that in this bit, Lonnie is the character that's motivating him not to do that, and like he understands the perception of Spider-Man, how Spider-Man is different from him and the rest of the members of this gang, so he shouldn't kill the Scorpion. I think that is an interesting place to leave it. But I love how he's motivated by all the things Osborn's saying. And then we get the callback to Osborn, where Peter is like, basically, listen, I know you're not the good guy, but you're also not the bad guy. Like, he doesn't say that, but you can tell in his voice, it's like, I don't think me working with you is good, but on the other hand, things worked out okay, so how much can I really complain? And I like that Osborn's speech was like almost helpful. He was like, listen, I get it, this stuff happens, but you did the right thing, you're a good kid. And this is kind of coming back to the fact that he's just not a very good dad. He's not very present, especially when he's distracted by some sort of evil science revenge thing. But I was very excited with how we were going to leave that relationship at the end of season 1, where Norman and Spider-Man are still kind of working together. But we've gotten the first hints that Spider-Man and Norman are not on the same page, and you have Lonnie pulling Spider-Man in this direction of like being Spider-Man, being the friendly neighborhood protector, where you have Osborn pulling Spider-Man in this direction of be the guy that doesn't pull his punches and gets respect and maybe, kills guys every so often. And like, that would be the conflict in season 2. That made a lot of sense to me. But then at the end of the episode, we got the reveal that Norman Osborn is trying to create a portal to space. First of all, I want to blame a little bit the last week on, we don't need to do those anymore. I really feel like those should be opt-ins, especially for a show like this that's only been going for like 4 weeks. Like, I think a last season on is fine, but like a last week on that starts with a clip of Doctor Strange fighting the big goo alien monster after I have just seen Norman Osborn have his big portal, and I'm like, oh, right, that's what we're doing, you know? And I think that was a moment that I think, as it happened, became somewhat more telegraphed, but I really just don't think we need those a lot of the time. I wish I could just automatically turn them off so we don't see any of them. Like, yes, I know there's a skip intro button or whatever, but I want them off by default. So then we got the true finale, episode 10, which turned out to be this strange little bootstrap paradox bit with Doctor Strange, the Venom monster, and all of the intern stuff coming together. Now, I think this makes sense. I do think the climax with Scorpion, everything going on in the Scorpion fight, and everything going on with Lonnie and Spider-Man, and Norman to some extent, although, you know, he was kind of out of it, but he was still part of the equation. That felt like the climax of this season for me. It brought everything that we were working with together, all the school stuff. We got Norman, we got the Spider-Man suit now with a real Spider-Man suit fighting Scorpion, some consequences of everything that's been going on with Dr. Octopus. Good, very good. I enjoyed all the stuff we got in episode 10, but it didn't feel necessary. Did it need to be necessary? No, but like I said, if they had closed it at episode 9, maybe with 1 or 2 little teases, would have been fine for me. But so episode 10, it turns out Osborn was using everything, all the interns and all the science, to make a portal to space, and also he stole the radioactive spider blood like we thought, and he's trying to recreate the spiders. And then, as he turns the portal on, Doctor Strange shows up, and then it becomes a thing where it's like, oh, the spider's gonna go back in time, and Peter created the spider that ended up biting him. Fun. I like Doctor Strange a lot here. Again, give MCU Doctor Strange the yellow gloves. There's nothing wrong with it. And we had this big fight against a big Venom monster, and I thought it was cool. I did kind of feel like we got done with the Norman Osborn arc in a way, like it's both for me, right? On one hand, totally earned. This had all been set up over the course of the season. On the other hand, I really enjoyed the Osborn Spider-Man dynamic and wanted to see it fall apart over more time, because by now Peter does not seem to have figured out, and unless I missed this, that the spider that came from Oscorp was the one that bit him, right? He knows that he got his powers that day, and it's probably related to that, but he doesn't know that Norman Osborn stole his blood and is doing all of the experiments. And I would have enjoyed seeing that all happen and seeing Spider-Man have to go through that over the course of a season. But yeah, a lot of Venom stuff here, and you know, Venom's not my favorite Spider-Man thing, so this was not necessarily like hit or miss for me. But again, like the Scorpion stuff was stuff that we just have not seen in any capacity in a movie, whereas Venom, I feel like I've got enough Venom for a very long time. And it's also that same thing where like the symbiote is just this big black goo that can kind of do whatever, whereas Scorpion, mechanical thing, it's much more fun for me to watch that, try to figure out how to fight Spider-Man, and Spider-Man try to figure out how to fight that. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I think all of this worked, but I just feel like it didn't work as well as the episode before it did, as a finale for everything that had been going on. Norman Osborn is now disgraced because of this. There's memes of him crying, which is fun. And now Harry and Peter and Nico are apparently going to start Web, which I've been told is the Spider-Man like organization that is set up in the ride at Disney World. When I saw Web, I assumed we were talking about like kind of Web Warriors, which is what some of the Spider-Verse teams, and when they work together, I'm pretty sure they use that name. But this, apparently this acronym, is from the Disneyland ride, so great. We saw a bunch of different characters. We got a lot of weird little names. Some were like animators and people that worked on the show. Some were characters that like I could not imagine we will ever see. And some are characters I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing we're talking about there. And I'm only here already because I think everything else in this episode that happened in the beginning of episode 10 with the fighting and with the portal and Doctor Strange, that was very cool. Love the conversation between Peter and Doctor Strange where we saw the Watcher. That was great. And I like the conclusion of the bootstrap paradox. I had seen someone theorize that online maybe like a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that was a cool theory, and so here it is. I think for me, for that reason, it felt a little bit more predictable, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was cool. But I think the craziest thing about this episode is that every character got a post-credit scene, basically. Like, every character got what would work as a post-credit scene if, like, let's say episode 9 was the last episode, then we showed one little vignette with one of these guys. Tombstone, for instance, his skin is turning gray. and he's gonna be full Tombstone in the future, and now he's also leading the gang, but he's maybe still a friend, and that relationship is gonna be complicated. That was interesting. Nico just fully does magic, and she knows about it. She's known about it this whole time, and she uses it to contact her mom, who is in, I don't know, like magical jail or something. And that's interesting, because that means we have a very different version of the Runaways in that origin story. So, like, I think maybe we'll see some of that play out in season 2. Amadeus Cho working at Oscorp because he's bad. We get to see Finesse just as a full superhero working with Daredevil. And we got another little bit of Charlie Cox Daredevil. And apparently, Finesse was there spying on Norman Osborn, which makes sense because we did get the little bit of her coming in before Spider-Man fights Daredevil. And like that kind of came and went really quickly. But she is like a full superhero, has a little domino mask, which I love. And now she is going to be hanging around and doing Finesse stuff. I don't know. It's going to be a nice hook to keep Daredevil in the show for me. We had a little bit of fun stuff with Peter and Pearl, where he has to, get the experiment done. An experiment being like a diorama. They can still do dioramas, especially in like fancy science. I guess he doesn't go to a fancy science school. He goes to like a regular school. Still, the diorama that he turned in, getting an A-, that is like a blessing, considering not just the shape the diorama is in, but that it's like a little thing. And then it's just the word rust or whatever. It's not a good diorama, I guess is what I'm saying. Especially compared to Nico's diorama. But now there's maybe a little bit of a romance there. I liked how this series did not lean fully into romance, but it didn't also ignore it, right? Spider-Man, Nico, Pearl, these characters all have like romantic feelings, like they're into each other, maybe, and maybe they're flirting, maybe, but that wasn't what it was about. It was a good balance, considering we've seen a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, like, say Captain America movies, where there's just zero any sexual anything between any characters. And sometimes that's cool, but other times if it keeps happening, it's like, I don't know, man, I feel like there'd be something between some of these guys, right? Then are we keeping it out of the MCU movies because we want them to be more, relatable for kids? Do the actors not want to do it? I don't know. But whatever it was, I like the balance we had here. I'm sure this will, move forward in the future. We do have Amadeus Cho and Pearl. Like, they're technically both agents of Atlas. We also had Luna Snowbit last week. We saw her on Harry's Instagram. So, I don't know, maybe we'll do an Agents of Atlas thing with these guys. It was an interesting little multicultural group, so that could work there. Dr. Octopus just drew the Dr. Octopus arms and was like, I should be Dr. Octopus. And I was like, did your brain just draw those and then you assembled them and went, ooh, Dr. Octopus? Or are you just really arty and was like, I'll put them all together? I don't know. But either way, cool. He seems to already really be in on tentacles, considering how much he used them in the big fight against the police, and also how he had a Scorpion guy just ready to go. So maybe it's just like been waiting for this opportunity. And then, honestly, the most surprising reveal, and I'm probably missing one, but I cannot think of too many other characters, so let's just go with Peter Parker's dad is alive, and we're maybe doing like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 conspiracy, parents were spies or something. We see he's in jail. May doesn't seem to like him, but he is interested in Peter, and he cares about Peter Parker, I guess, a little bit. Probably he's not fully a bad guy, but I think that's very interesting. Who is Roosevelt? That is a question, that Spider-Man fans are always asking, and I hope that gets integrated into this somehow. We have Norman Osborn messing around with the symbiote, and when the symbiote came out of the portal and like a little cup, we had a little piece of symbiote. Even I, a person who has seen all this stuff, a million times and stuff, said to myself, like, oh, symbiote, like, we're going to do Black Suit Spider-Man. And we probably will, but maybe we'll go straight to Venom. Maybe we'll go straight to Eddie Brock. Or maybe we'll go straight to Matt Gargan, and Norman Osborn will do a Thunderbolts, because Norman Osborn in the Thunderbolts run manipulates Matt Gargan, who has the Venom symbiote at the time. But like now we've got a very easy formula to set up some of that, and then maybe we could do the rest. And maybe they, for the first time, like in this universe, and have never been, expressly named this in comics, can just be named after General Ross. Maybe Norman Osborn creates like a strike team for General Ross. I don't know, but they have a good relationship together. We have the Matt Gargan Scorpion possibility. I'm just saying that could be cool. And then we got a final swing, which felt great, looked great. But like overall, I think there's a case to be made that this is one of the best single seasons of Spider-Man television show ever produced. And I'm only saying that because I can't remember what the animated series is like, how their seasons played out, and if there were certain arcs that were the best ones. I know Spectacular Spider-Man was great, and that is probably looked at fondly as maybe like the best Spider-Man cartoon. So this, I would say, could be up there. I think some of the fight choreography, some of the action, and the way it just felt so new was so refreshing. I think there's people in my life who like just don't like Spider-Man very much. And this is definitely aimed at a younger audience, although I wouldn't say it's aimed exclusively to a younger audience. But like, there's people who I'd be like, you don't need to see it, whatever. It's good. It's very good. But like, if you don't want to see a story about Spider-Man going to high school and like fighting villains, you're just not going to like it. But I do think for anybody that kind of likes Spider-Man, this is very interesting. And I think there's a case to be made. This is some of the best Spider-Man, like between Tom Holland currently, who is very good. Everything with Into the Spider-Verse, which is great. The PlayStation Spider-Man universe, which is great. And then this, like, we are living in an era of top-tier Spider-Man. And then you got the Ultimate Spider-Man comics that are really good. And potentially, I don't know, maybe other comics. I haven't checked if there's any other Spider-Man comics that are being made. It's Ultimate Spider-Man, though. Those are very good. And everyone likes them. So we just gonna, kind of, those are the comic portion of this. But I think it's a great time to be a Spider-Man fan. I'm very excited because it seems like they're really going forward on this show. Second season is definitely in the works, and I think it's going to be something really special. And speaking of things that are really special, I want to talk to you about this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is a subscription streaming service that I helped to create with a bunch of my other YouTube friends. People you definitely know if you like my channel, like Patrick Willems, Captain Midnight, Big Joel, H Bomber Guy, Princess Weeks, and a bunch of others. Go to the Culture tab and just poke around. You will find someone you already love. And for my Nando V Movies and Nando Cut videos, the entire Nando Cinematic Universe, they all go up early on Nebula. The Nando V Movies videos are usually a week early. The Nando Cut videos are usually closer to a day or so. But when it comes to a movie review, that can mean the difference between me recommending you immediately see a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine, or me warning you that you immediately see a movie like Madam Web. Either way, see Madam Web. Madam Web's great. You can also download videos to the Nebula app and watch them wherever you want. And we're adding new creators every day. We have guest passes. It's really incredible. And speaking of incredible, Nebula is already a steal at $60 a year, $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for $36. That is $3 a month. It's an incredible deal. Again, go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut. You're going to love it. All right, that's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.